All right. Well, hello everyone who's joined us today. Just a couple housekeeping items before I turn it over to our presenter. First of all, McMaster University is the host institution for the Canadian Research Data Center Network. The university is located on the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. We begin our session today by giving honor and thanks to the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations and to recognize our responsibility to respect and honor the intimate relationship Indigenous people have to the land. You can visit Native Land Digital, a space where people can learn more about the lands they inhabit, the history of those lands, and how to actively be part of a better future going forward together. I'd also like to remind everyone that CRDCN has launched the CRDCN Research Dataset and Policy Circles to help connect researchers with shared interests in particular datasets, research themes, and topics. To learn more and register, you can visit our website, and I'm just putting a link in the chat right now. I'm so grateful to be joined today, or to have joining us today, Bassirou Gueye from the Economic and Social Analysis and Modeling Division, who's going to sort of talk to us about the business data, which is sort of an update to a presentation that Huju gave a few years ago, as there's been some movement in the business data, and we're all very grateful to have these data in the RDCs. Just a reminder to everyone, we'll keep the cameras off while Bass is presenting, and then following that during the Q&A, cameras and mics are fair game, and we'll just have a nice discussion about the data set. So I'll turn it over to you, Bass. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Grant. Hi, everyone. As Grant said, my name is Bassirou Gueye, but feel free to call me Bass. And today I'll be sharing some updates on the business employee analytical microdata, or BEAM, and like just to provide some lessons learned and a few thoughts on where business data is heading. I work in the analytical studies and modeling branch at Statistics Canada, and our branch is essentially the research and modeling incubator at StatCan. We focus on producing high quality and relevant and timely information on various topics, including economic, health, and social issues that matter to Canadians. And within the branch, our work is supported by 4 divisions. The data access division, which you might be more familiar with, as they are responsible for the research data centers. The health analysis division, and also the strategic analysis, publication, and training team. We also have the economic and social analysis and modeling division, which I belong to. And we are responsible for the BEAM, right? What we will be talking about today. So, and our role includes making like complex data accessible or usable for researchers and policy analysts in Canada. So what is the BEAM? So the BEAM is a set of linkable files that are mainly derived from tax data and also some administrative sources. We can divide the BEAM into 2 main groups of components. So we have the business side of the BEAM, and also the individual side. On the business side, we have 2 or 3 data sets, or 3 components, if you wish. We have the incorporated business, the list of incorporated businesses, which is derived from national accounts longitudinal microdata file, which itself is derived from a various tax schedules. So like you're probably aware of, are familiar with the General Index of Financial Information, PD7 for employment, GST for sales, and also export and import characteristics of goods like that we derive from the trade by importer or by exporter characteristics. We also get a lot of business characteristics information from the business register, and we do have some information on the ownership of the businesses on both the incorporated and unincorporated side, using what we call the diversity and skills database, which is built upon T2 Schedule 50, which lists all incorporated business owners with at least 10% ownership of a given business. And we also have the list of unincorporated businesses. So most of them are what we generally call self-employed individuals. And if they have a valid business number, they would also be part of the list of unincorporated businesses that form the universe of the business side of the being. And on the other side, we have the T1 PMF, so the T1 Personal Master File, which is also derived from tax data. So the T1 tax data, which also includes a lot of information on individuals' demographics, income, and so on. We also have the longitudinal immigration database which is an administrative data set that we received from Immigration Canada, with a lot of information on the type of permits, when people become permanent resident, whether they now hold a citizenship status or and so on. And in order to be able to combine the business and the individual level component, we have what we call the job level file, which is the T4 ROE. The T4 is the job level file of the business of the BIM, and it allows it allows users to link individuals and workers between the business components and the two individual components. We also have like some information from the record of employment showing whether there is separation between a worker and an employer. Something that we do have in the T1 PMF, or that we did add to the T1 PMF, is a flag that tells you whether a person in the T1 PMF is a business owner or not. And for that flag, we only capture when the person is holding is part of the T2 Schedule 50, which is only which only covers incorporated business owners. So in a nutshell, this is like what the BIM looks like in terms of structure. And let's just talk about the variables before talking about lessons learned. I just want to briefly highlight what BIM actually contains in terms of variables. I talked about it like briefly when I was presenting on the previous slide, but I think knowing what the content is really shapes both the strengths and also the weaknesses, the limitations. So on the individual side, BIM includes information on demographics, such as age, gender, and by gender here I mean sex at birth, because we don't have at least not yet the variable gender as part of the BIM. We do have information on marital status. It also covers income. I talked about it earlier, including T4 earnings, self-employment income, investment income, and also total income, like when we take the sum of all these sources. We also observe the job separations and job history, if you wish. This includes whether separations are permanent or temporary. So we have that as part of the record of employment, which is already linked to the T4 as part of this broad record linkage. And we can tell what is the reason for separation, whether it was like due to maternity or parental leave, the job start date and end dates. Just to make a quick precision here, like when you talk about job start and end date, it's only when there is a separation. For people who are still working for the same business and there is no job separation, we won't have this information, because this is taken derived from the record of employment. And in addition to that, the BIM includes detailed immigration-related information. We have their educational level at learning, official language knowledge, and immigration category through which they were admitted to Canada, and the country from which they come. Plus, we do have like country of birth and country of residency. And on the business side, the BIM includes also demographics on firms, like industry. We have province, and I would say sector, because we only have next two. the province, as well as a lot of measures of business performance. So, for example, we have payroll, employment, assets, liabilities, revenue, profits, and expenses. Investment is there. R&D expenditures, value of export, import, and also some measures of value added that people can use to do, for example, some calculations of productivity or analysis on productivity. So the strengths. I think one of the main ones one of the main advantages of the Beam is that it's ready to use. So the data are already available in the RDCs. So researchers don't really need to wait for custom extractions or custom data development when they submit their proposal for institutional review. So there is no data preparation cost, right? Because the data is pre-processed, it's standardized, which means that researchers can move straight to analysis instead of like spending weeks cleaning or assembling the data. We already have the keys, and I think as part of the documentation, we also provided some examples on how to link the different components. And because of this, BIM has proven to be highly versatile and has been used across a wide range of research topics. So I just provide a few examples here, but there are a lot of people actually using the BIM in the RDCs. For example, it's been applied to work on aging workforces and firms' hiring decisions, minimum wage policies, and labor market power. Job ladders in Canada. I think I see Benoit online. I think one of these projects is his. So uh, it's also been used to study wages and employment growth, effects of wage disclosure, and so on. So overall, BIM lowers the barrier to entry and supports a broad set of policy relevant questions. Uh, but alongside this strength, BIM users have also highlighted some data gaps, and we are fully aware of these ones. For example, the geographic granularity remains limited. So I think we only have province or we only had province at the time. So while BIM works well at the provincial level, we still like some sub-provincial indicators. For example, the census metropolitan area or local labor markets are still quite restricted, and this can limit like more localized analysis and on the BIM, at least using the BIM alone. The second one that has been mentioned is the industry detail, which can be too coarse for some research questions. The BIM relies on broad, like two-digit NAICS codes, which makes it harder to study market structure or competition sometime, or not only defined industries. And the third, or maybe third A, major gap concern the ownership, like the lack of the ownership and family information, and the absence of these two components, like ownership and family data, uh, limits research on family businesses and ownership driven dynamics. And in practice, actually, this is one of the main reasons why researchers request seed instead of bid. Like in recent years or recent month, many people who are requesting access to the seed is just because they not because they need additional variables from the BIM or from the BIM existing components, but they do need information on family, which is not part of the BIM linkage approval, or they need information on like detailed information on owners from T2 Schedule 50 or T1 FDPD. And yeah, the T1 family file isn't even for the seed. It's an important missing component now, because since last year, this file has been temporarily removed from the seed linkage environment as well, which like further constraint family based analysis. Yeah, so final, there's like a broader standardization versus like flexibility trade-off. some people mentioned this at last year's presentation on the beam versus seed at the CRDCN conference. So the beam is intentionally standardized to serve general purpose research, but the lack of modular access, like allowing people to add variables here and there when they are available in the seed, means that like even when researchers need just one or two variables, they often have to request the seed instead of working with the beam and like bringing in additional information from the seed when the components act itself is already part of the seed or part of the beam. I mean, sorry. So what we did when we heard of like these limitations, I'll just briefly talk about some of the current and future directions. On the current improvement side, the most recent Beam vintage added an anonymized statistical area classification and as also the type as well as the type. So this can be at least partially address some of the geographic limitation, as I mentioned that I mentioned earlier on the geographic side. Researchers are also now allowed to link Beam with the business research microdata when the project when there's enough justification to do so. The BRM is the main business component of the Beam, and it includes more variables as well as the next codes at the 4-digit level. So allowing researchers to use the BRM as part of the Beam linkage now we enable more detailed industry analysis. And the other one is that linkages are now allowed. Like when we first released the Beam, it was just like to be used as a standalone file. We couldn't add anything. We couldn't link it to anything. But now we have approval to be able to request custom linkages between Beam and other StatCan data or even external data sets. So we are currently working, for example, on some record linkage applications to bring in additional information or external data to be linked to the Beam. And like there is a process that we need to follow that goes through privacy, ethical review. But like we are following the right process to bring in and link additional data for project specific. For research specific project. And yeah, I think this like will significantly expand the analytical possibilities while maintaining confidentiality safeguards. And looking ahead, Beam itself will likely not be updated this year. And this is not specific to the Beam. I just want to emphasize that this is not specific to the Beam, but more broadly, the StatCan, the agency, is currently re-evaluating how data are produced and released across a number of statistical programs. And it's not only for access to microdata. It also affects like some of the data that we are releasing. You've probably heard about workforce adjustment and also expenditure review on the news these days. So this is part of like a broader agency initiative. And but at the same time, we are still working on automating the production of custom seed funds. And the reason why we are doing that is to allow more users of the seed at a lower cost, and also the longer term objective is that, right, to make access to seed type variables faster and also more efficient and more accessible to the average user. And yeah, I'll end my presentation before taking questions on how researchers can access the Beam. So applications are submitted through the MAP, the microdata access portal, using the standard StatCan process, and like same as other RDC projects, right? So the research proposal needs to justify why access to confidential microdata is needed. So we need to well-define questions a proposal that clearly outline or justify the data needs. Access to, although like the 4 components are readily available to this in the RDCs, and when you are approved for a component, you are approved for all variables that are included in the component. But access to Beam component files is granted on a need-to-know basis. So, for example, we have the for like IMDb is there, T4ROE is there, T1 PMF, and also the business components. If your research doesn't really need access to the business side, like you would only get access to what you need to in order to undertake the proposed research. So overall, like it's the same process, and Beam follows the standard RDC approval process. So for researchers already familiar with the RDC workflows, I think there is nothing unusual or additional to navigate throughout the process. So with that, I'll stop here, and I'd be happy to take any questions, comments, and thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. If anyone has any questions for Bass, hands, or it's for a relatively small group today, you could just go ahead and unmute and ask them. Go ahead, Benoit. Oh, we're getting like a documentary style panel. I like it.
Hi, Bass. Very nice presentation. I guess I have two questions. The first one about custom linkage. Are you working on merging the robots exclamation point database to Beam?
It has not been done yet, but it is possible to do so because the robots data. Are you referring to the one that we linked before, right?
Yeah, it's linked to NANF, I think.
Yeah, so it's feasible. Like we would just need
Benoît,
to.
peux-tu juste préciser c'est quoi ça le robots database?
Well, it's a database about robots.
Yeah, like it's a database that we acquired in the past, and there's a paper that we wrote. I can send it to you, Catherine, if you want afterwards. Like that was written by Jay Dixon and Brian Hung, and the data is at the firm level, and we can link it to. It has been already linked to NAV, but not to the Beam yet. To answer Benoit's question, but something that we can do, like if there's a request, right? We don't need it for now, but if you need it for your research, you can submit a proposal and ask for a linkage between the two.
And if I request a linkage between the two, do I have to pay for it? I guess so.
No, because the Beam component, the business component of the Beam is BRM. BRM is an extraction of NAMP, so it's technically already linked, right? So just like the Beam is considered a separate product, if you want to add additional data sets, we need to go through like the formal process of requesting a new record linkage and so on. It's mainly paperwork than like doing actually the linkage, which has already been done.
Okay, well, very nice. Second question, what can you say about an ETA for the T1FF back into seed?
Good questions. I was expecting that one. Like I spoke with Ryan just last week about it actually, and he needs to talk to the team responsible for the T1FF, and from what I heard, it's not clear yet, like whether the T1FF or any other program will be continued in the future, because like of all this expenditure review that the agency is currently doing. Our target or our goal is like at least to bring back what we had before, right? At least like if we are not going to reproduce the T1FF like from now on, at least like the one that we currently have, our goal is to keep like using those ones as legacy files, and that's just like stop there. But yeah, like I know management is working on that. We talked about the MOU. It's been signed, so there's technically nothing preventing us from using the 100% file from outside the head office, which was a blocker before, right? But as you know, like T1FF is not from my team. We are a user of it, and we need approval from data custodian. But my director is working on getting that approval. And I know, like we have some projects. I think Benoit, you have 2 or 3 projects impacted by the T1FF freeze now. So, but yeah, we work on that. And the other thing that also we are requesting is is at least to have a temporary approval to use selected variables from there, right? Because I have some people who only need 1 or 2 variables from T1FF, and they don't need the 100% T1FF file, which would include every even like children non-tax filers. So our goal is to get approval to link only tax filers, and from there we're gonna maybe and my hope is that like we're gonna get a green solution pretty soon.
I was asking for a friend. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think given a little bit of interest in the chat and some other interest, I'll make sure to get the robots data paper that was referenced to, and we'll just send it out to everyone who registered, just since it came up, so that you can read more about that data. Lisa?
Yeah, thanks. But thanks for your presentation. It was very informative for someone like me who just started accessing the Beam. So I have 2 questions for you. The first question is about adding a very specific categories of 4-digit and 3-digit NAICS codes. I only need 4-digit NAICS codes and 3-digit NAICS code, so that I can sort of identify the firms that are part of the public sector. And we had this conversation by email with you a couple of months ago. In this situation, do I need to apply for this new initiative called the BRM linkage, or do I have to apply for SEED? So my second question is there any plan to add the individual's occupational information to BEAM? My understanding is that the record of employment does collect information of an individual's occupation. So as someone like me who's really interested in this occupational segregation and the firm segregation, I would really love to have occupational information in BEAMS. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good question, or two good comments. Like for the first one, if your goal is just like to have a flag, like let's say you want to identify the quantum sector and you have a list of 4-digit NAICS that you want to use to just like derive a flag, 1, 1, 0, when they are there. Now we can do it. Before we couldn't, right? But now we can add, like, we can send you a list of enterprise IDs and that flag. We've done that like recently for a researcher using the Beam or the BRM in the RDCs. They were using the BRM, but they wanted to identify some specific sectors at NAICS 6, which is not part of the Beam. We had to do some validation to make sure there's no confidentiality issues there. But in the end, we did it, right? So it's better to ask for that specific flag than asking for the BRM, because if you ask for the BRM, we would tell you why you need the BRM if it is just to identify one specific group of NAICS. So you can reach out to me again. I don't know what I said at that time, but that has changed recently. So you can reach out to me again, and then we can see what we can do on that. Regarding the second questions, yes, the occupation and education are 2 of the main limitations, not only for the Beam but also the SEED, right? The component of the version of the ROE we have doesn't include that information, at least like the one that we received from ESTC. And even if it did, we would only have that information for people that have a separation with their employer, right? But if it's coming from the ROE, it means that there was a separation. That's why there was a record there. So you wouldn't have it for many other workers. I have some colleagues who are working on linking the SEED and census, but the issue with occupation is that it might change, right? So throughout the year, the census is a 20% sample. So for example, if we link the census to the SEED, like given the way the stratification is done, like even in a given firm, like let's say which has like 500 employees, there might be just one person who was surveyed in the long form of the census. So there would be some coverage issues if you link the census and the Beam or the SEEDs even. And yeah, so those are like known limitations. We still thinking about what is the best way of bringing occupation and education information as part of the seed linkage environment. But and that would be like representative, right? So ROE is one. I even didn't know there's occupation there, because like in the file that we received, it's not there. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be helpful just to have it for people who who face the separation, like, and not for the other ones. I'm not sure. What do you think?
That's very informative. Thanks. I'll email you shortly.
Yeah.
Okay, so just in the interim, Benoit and Catherine have been helpful enough to post the robots paper in the chat, so we don't have to send it around. If you just grab the link
there,
you can save it and read it at your leisure. There was a hand that went down. I don't know, Chiteng, did you get your question answered, or?
Hi, yeah. So I was going to ask that whether for the education for at individual levels, do we observe the education of the employees as well as the education of business owners?
Not as part of the current version of the seed or the beam. There are other data sets actually that request that has that information, right? You have, for example, the post-secondary student student information system, so the PCs. For other projects, we obtained approval to link the two. Yeah, I think that's the only way we can get that information or link it through the with the census. But linkage between seed and census has not been approved for even like for internal use. It's the use is usually like very limited by the census team. So if you need like information on those ones, I think considering the ELMP or the PCs, which is also part of ELMP, is probably a better option, like linking seed to other information on education.
I see.
But we do have it for immigrants, right? Because that is part of the IMDb already. We have like a level of education as part of the IMDb in the beam.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you especially to our presenter. I see some rounds of applause coming up, well deserved.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you. Bye now.
Merci, Bassirou.
Merci.